Yes, hello. Welcome to another edition of Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. We're here again. Round 18 coming up. Gee, that's crept up on us. And I'm here, as always, with Damien Barrett, Dale Thomas, and a nicely dressed Wayne Carey in the new South Melbourne studios for the first time. So it's nice to be here.
Shiny.
Isn't it? It's got that nice smell to it.
It's a brand new smell, isn't it? Yeah, like a brand new car.
Overpowering Duck's cologne. You got the suit on again. Duck, you got a meeting after this again?
So in other words, you feel really good in it for about a month and then you just don't care about it anymore.
That's how it works.
That's what I do with the car. Generally.
Pretty much.
Where are you off to today, Duck? You're looking rather nice and rather dapper. This concerns me.
I don't know. I'm not sure why my attire every week is a topic.
Well, it tells a story.
It does.
You either come in your tracksuit gear and you've been for a 2-hour walk, or you come in your fancy suit. It means you've got a business lunch.
I've got a lunch after this.
Business?
It's always business, Joey, with Duck. No matter what he's doing, it's always business with Duck. You know that, Joey.
I do indeed. Hey, it's very nice to be in the new South Melbourne studio here. And we thought that while we moved into the new studio, Jill, we thought, well, let's go back and reminisce about the old studio. And I want to go back to the very first episode that we did this year on the Midweek Rub, because I asked the question. I said, let's give an unpopular opinion, give a view on something that nobody else was talking about, Damo. In fact, most people were saying the opposite to what we were saying. So I wanted Jill to dig it up from the episode first week. Jill, let's get the oracle out. Can you go back, please, and just take a listen to our unpopular views going back to round 1?
My unpopular opinion is that the Western Bulldogs won't make the top 8.
Okay.
I just, like you, I think they slide. I think they overachieved last year. Still have questions about the ruck and their back line. And I think there's going to be other teams that are in that sort of bracket of 4th to 14th that have got an easier draw and can jump up ahead of them.
Good start.
Good
start.
Not a bad start, Daisy.
I recall you saying that too,
People were
Daisy.
tipping the Dogs to win the flag. Can you believe it?
Laughable.
Very good.
Their back line won't stack up.
That's
Ruck issues.
fantastic.
So that wasn't bad. That wasn't
Summarised it well.
It wasn't
too.
bad.
That's good.
Yeah. That means there's better.
Yep. So let's go to Damo. And Damo and I are on the same page with this one. Listen to our unpopular view before round 1.
I'm still big on the Cats. So I've got them playing the Brisbane Lions in the grand final.
That was mine. I was going to say Geelong. We didn't confirm. Mine was going to be Geelong can win the flag. I think
reckon
Geelong
they
can win the flag this year.
Yeah, Jeremy Cameron's fit, and if he stays fit, that just changes that whole dynamic.
Yeah.
There you go.
Damo.
That's
Very good. Not bad.
Well done to you too.
Sitting on top of the ladder, just knocked off the reigning champs and should be the premiership favourites.
And Jeremy Cameron's dominating.
Should potentially consider this as a future, us guys.
Absolutely.
Playing a different brand of footy.
And don't forget, that was a very unpopular view at the start of the year.
People were thinking they were
out of the air.
They were too old. They were off the cliff. They were gone. So that's not bad, Damo.
So what's Duck got?
Well, let's just have a listen. Duck's a bit nervous about this one.
Up, is it?
I'm not sure
I
Duck
hope
can
so.
remember. Let's take a listen to what Duck said at the start of round 1.
Well, I think Stewie Dew will be the coach the following year, 2023. And I know everyone will be riding CLARKO to get the job and whatever else, and he's under all sorts of pressure. I think Stewie Dew and I think the Suns will go up the ladder.
Ducky boy. He's with himself.
I thought there was a stitch up coming there for sure.
To be honest, I think Daisy, because they were a grand finalist last year, that's pretty big. That's massive. Geelong,
not so much.
No, they're very good. That's good to go back like
Isn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
Because we do get, and people, you run into people in the street and they talk about your tips and you're on the bottom of the age tips and all of that. And they don't realise we put them in at the start of the week before COVID and everything else. But when we make these predictions, we do get some things wrong. We're not perfect, but we do get a lot right as well.
Yeah.
We don't throw, as long as you're not one of those people that throw, a million darts every week.
Like who, Duck?
Kane Corns, I think he's referring to.
No, there's plenty.
The Port Adelaide fireman.
There's plenty that do.
Anyway, I just thought it'd be a nice way to start the show with a little pat on the back.
You've got us up, Joey.
You've got us up and about. Duck got up and about. He loves
He
loves
thought
that.
there was the biggest stitch up coming there of all time.
Well, especially when there was silence.
Very good. Hey, there is plenty of talking news. We will have to get into the Kangaroos situation, Damo. We've got Duck here, of course, the greatest player of all time and the greatest Kangaroo. The Brisbane Lions bit going on there, and we'll have a look at some of the footy as well. So we'll get stuck into that next. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Damo, as we said earlier, we're going to have to touch on the North Melbourne situation. Of course, David Noble Well, do we say sacked? They mutually agreed to part ways. He was sacked.
Well, let's say sacked.
Yeah, he was
there
sacked.
was a definition attached to that people don't like, but it clearly wasn't his call. And as such, they've decided to make the change, and they made it after 38 matches. And some will argue, including David himself, that was way too short on what he was asked to do initially and where he's got it to this point. But there's another view, and the one that the prevailing view that the club took was that to continue with him was going to make it worse. So you get to the situation where he's out. Lee Adams will take over for the last 6 matches this year in interim capacity. He won't be part of the possibilities around the permanent replacements. And then you get to who will that permanent replacement be? And again, we've got the usual names of Alistair Clarkson. I wouldn't be ruling out at all Adam Simpson, despite 2 years on a contract, and noises that he and his chief executive, Trevor Nisbet, have made at West Coast about that being honoured. I think it's game on with that situation. Don Pike's another one that I see prominently right now. There's other names, there'll be other processes, but given they've gone into Reece Shaw, into David Noble as untried coaches, I'd be very surprised if, as a starting point, they were going to go down that path again, Duck. And you've got a good line of sight on a lot of this. You're privy to conversations from both the incumbents at the club and others who are agitating for change on the outside.
I would like to see them go after a group, not just an individual. Obviously, they have to name a senior coach, but put a really strong team underneath them. Whoever is the main man or woman, make sure that they have a really, really good support. So go after a group, not just one individual. They've got to throw the net far and wide. I know for whatever reason, Ross has his detractors. I think Ross Lyon's still the best coach in waiting, if he wanted to do it, and some people are suggesting the Paul Roos model for the Kangaroos. I don't mind that theory, especially if Ross was to put his hand up, I would be a backer of it. No doubt about that, because I think he's the most qualified coach that is not coaching right now, other than Alistair Clarkson.
Yep. When clubs get into disarray like this, and you have all been and parts of clubs that go into disarray, off field, it's a mess, North Melbourne, and it is as big a mess as we've seen for some time. People agitate on the fringes, and the power brokers are now at play again, Duck. Look, I believe you know this, but Mark Dawson, who was a basically famous in his own ways, a director of the football club in the successful 1990s era, Francis Trainer, similar status within the footy club, famous North Melbourne name. They are trying to get onto the board individually and want to come onto the board as a group as well. Your line of sight on that situation, have you been approached to be part of that group? Would you play a role in the board machinations of North Melbourne?
No, I won't play any role on any board, but I've had conversations with all of those people that you've mentioned, including Sonia. And all that you want is harmony. You want people. You don't want a situation like, and dare I say it, Carlton for a number of years. They just had a lot of people in the background always not happy and always, challenging the group that was in charge. And you saw how that turned out. It's taken so long for them to get in line with one another, and all of a sudden now look at the success they're having because they're at that point. You just don't want to see North Melbourne make the same mistake. So if there is a group, and if it is Smokey and others that want to get onto the board, then you just hope that those conversations are healthy and for the benefit of the North Melbourne Footy Club. Because from this point on, those decisions and not having that infighting and people challenging and all that sort of stuff, you like I said, you want it to be you want it to be harmonious.
Harmonious. And just on that, they want 4 spots on the board. So the two men I mentioned, I think Kerry Good's also potentially part of it. Another famous North Melbourne director and player prior to that in the 90s as a director. They want it to be seamless, but that never is seamless.
My experience, and a lot less experience than you have both seen more than me. Does it feel like, Joe, a lot of the time there's a lot of huff and puff and a lot of noise that comes externally and around the peripheries, but then when it comes push to shove, these things don't really get up? Is that probably fair?
And the control of the proxy votes attached to the way people come from the outside onto the board, it's always in control of the incumbents.
Right.
That's to your point.
What's your take on the rest of the positions at North Melbourne? So assistant coaches all the way up to CEOs.
Yep.
Is there likely to be wholesale changes? Is that what they need?
Well, Sonia Hood, the chairperson, has now twice in the past 7 days backed in to want to use the phrase 100% Ben Amafio as CEO. So that's going to be interesting, because I have a view that Alistair Clarkson won't walk into that football club with Ben Amafio in that position. That's just what I've been hearing, and that's the way Alistair would work.
So if CLARKO says, I want the job, is that curtains for Ben?
That would be a decision for North Melbourne to then work out, do they want to go down that path? Because as I've been saying for some time, if you do bring Alistair Clarkson in, you're not just bringing a coach in, you're bringing in a CEO because he operates as one. You're bringing in a list manager, your recruiter, almost a chairperson because he does have complete control, particularly if he comes into a club like North Melbourne now. But back to your point, the people making the decision around the coach will have to get their heads around that, I believe, if that's the case.
Damo, in saying that, there's probably only one club that you'd almost allow that type of control to happen at the moment, and that probably is North Melbourne because he is such a strong character. But would any other club take CLARKO on if he was to come in and give those sort of demands, including including GWS, who have guys like Dave Matthews and other people at that footy club that are strong in their own right, and so they should be. No, very competent at what they do. So they're not going to just allow CLARKO to do that.
And he won't have that request delivered out of his own mouth either. He's got people around him to make sure he will demand, I would imagine if he was to go to North Melbourne, that the AFL with the club sort out the fact that they will get a priority pick. And they will get I don't believe they should, but they will get a priority pick. Whether it's
why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they, Damo?
Because it's their own doing.
Every club.
And I'm sick of the welfare and the handout every time something goes wrong.
So what was Melbourne's and what was
they shouldn't have got it either. Brisbane Lions shouldn't have got
but
it.
They did.
Gold Coast Sun shouldn't
have got
it.
They did.
No, but you come to time in a competition where you say no, fix your own
so
problems
you were allowed
out.
to do it back then, but you're not allowed to do it now.
Well, you've got to start somewhere to stop the handout mentality we have as an industry. Every time something goes wrong, put your hand out.
It does get a bit annoying when you hear everyone saying it's their own doing. Every club that's been in this situation, it's been their own doing. Not just North Melbourne.
Yeah, but work your way out of it. Work your way out of it. And ultimately, the priority picks don't, in isolation, fix the problem anyway.
Well, if you get it right, that'd help.
Is Adam Simpson being thrown up with the possibility that maybe he brings some of those senior players from West Coast over?
I hadn't even thought of that possibility, Daisy. You raised that in a loaded sense.
Well, no, that was just my take on when you think of who's going to come and what they bring. Obviously, Alistair Clarkson for his CEO style approach and can come in a big, strong figure. If you got Ross the Boss, it'd be a similar thing, his way or the highway, really pull people into line. Adam Simpson, in a coaching sense, probably a rung underneath both of those two men we speak of. But if there is the option that they need to stock up a list, they need
Who's Adam Simpson sit under?
He wouldn't sit under Ross Lyon, would he?
Well, probably not. But
sorry, Ross Lyon wouldn't sit under
Adam Simpson.
Whatever I'm saying. You're following my gist. He's bringing more to the table.
Yeah.
Hey, just another club that's a bit going on there, but for different reasons, Damo, the Brisbane Lions. What's the situation there with the COVID outbreak over in Queensland and how it's affecting Brisbane?
5 senior players, good players, missed out last week for that reason, and they're genuinely worried now because they've seen what happened to West Coast, and we discussed this a few times, that it wasn't just the absence of the game in question with COVID and the protocols around it, it's the return to football for those who've actually had COVID, and there's a worry there. Chris Fagan is worried. Oscar McInerney is another name who will miss this week, on top of the names that have already suffered it. And obviously now they've also lost 4 of 7, which is getting dicey when it comes to the doubles chance that they wanted. They're only equal now as far down the ladder as the 6th place team on the premiership points.
Start of the year, we were having players miss with the flu. And now there's no flu protocols, but we had players missing with the flu. And yet we weren't doing a song and dance about all of that, were we?
No.
So why are we doing a song and dance about
Because
COVID?
you can play with the flu, but you can't play if you've got COVID.
Yeah, but they
symptoms.
weren't playing with the flu. That's the problem, because if they were actually sick with the flu.
I think we've seen, though, with West Coast and that being the example, when they had 5 or 6 blokes out and then they returned them the next week, they couldn't cover the ground.
That's the worry.
That's the issue.
That's the issue that Brisbane's got right now.
And this is the conundrum. This is the weird thing. When they had the flu at the start of the year, they physically could not get out of bed and play football.
Yes.
They've now got these COVID protocols, and they could do a 10K time trial in 20 minutes.
Yeah. And look, the game is going to be continued to run that way, Duck, because of the deals that each state government has with the AFL just to host the game of footy in those states each week.
There are more clubs, though, that are just taking it a lot more serious, the COVID, because of the next wave and getting close to finals. Clubs are now tightening up again with who can come into the football department, who can go through the gym, segregating sections of football clubs. That is happening again. So clubs are tightening the bunkers just as they get ready for finals, because you don't want it to affect your run at a finals, or in particular a finals campaign.
And you can't stop the protocols now, because
it's got to go through. No,
correct.
It has to go
it's got
through
the whole
season.
year. Yep.
Hey, we'll chat a little bit more. We want to chat about the Hawkins Cameron v Curnow Mackay matchup. We might do that in the duck dive. We might have a look at what's going on at Collingwood, particularly with Brodie Grundy. That's all to come next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Hey, huge game emerging Saturday night at the MCG. It's now who we think the premiership favourites, Geelong, taking on the Blues, who are coming like a steam train. And there's superstars at either end of the ground. There's superstars everywhere, to be honest. So I want to get your boys' thoughts just off the top of your head, the Daisy Duck Dive. Who are you taking Saturday night? Are you taking Hawkins and Cameron, or are you taking Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay?
Oh, Hawkins and Cameron for me, I would have thought.
I'll be taking Hawkins and Cameron as well, just because the depleted backline still of the Blues.
Just what they've done and more experienced.
Joey?
They're in pretty good form. Charlie Curnow. They just kicked 10 goals, 6 and took 11 marks inside 50 between them. I'll take those two big boys.
I'm with you too, Joe.
That's not to mean that I think Geelong won't win, but it's just I'll take those two.
Yeah.
They're a powerful duo, Damo. And then the other end, you got Sam de Koning or Tom de Koning. Who are you taking? Which de Koning is going to be better in the long run?
Right now, I say Sam. That's the Geelong one.
With an asterisk to change it at some point.
Maybe. It's a tough one.
Who's the better de Koning?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't.
Yes, you can. That's what we do.
Well, I'll go.
That's what duck dive is.
One of the siblings, I won't say who, said Sam is probably the better one.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Isn't he, as we speak, Joey, revolutionising the way we play a key position? Sam, at 204 centimetres, 13 games into his career.
He needs to get his ski rope cut in half if he played on the weekend.
I tell you what, he did. He's had it a couple of weeks where he's just been a little bit off, but he's only young.
He's learning.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You know what I'd love to see just on the Curnow and Cameron scenario? The Blues using Charlie Curnow in the same manner that Geelong use Jeremy Cameron. If he can't get into the game, give him the license to get up the ground, get himself involved halfback. He's got the aerobic capacity.
He's got the field kicking.
He's got the field kicking, and then he can lose. There was the other week against Grimes where he wore him like a cheap suit, just couldn't get any space or separation. Jeremy Cameron's so good because he gets those lateral leads coming inside forward 50 because he's lost his direct opponent, then just burns him off laterally. I'd love to see the Blues take something from that and use him in that manner.
Just quickly on the Sam de Koning revolutionising the game. I think the most important position now going forward in AFL will be the 200-centimetre key defender.
Well, there you go.
Because there's not many of them. So Alex Pearce is one who you saw him up close, duck how big he is. But you think about all the key forwards that are coming through the competition now. The King boys, 2-metre Peter.
Naughton.
Some of these, they're all 200 plus centimetres. So you need to find a key defender who is almost 200 centimetres to match these young up-and-coming superstars.
I think that's where it was only, I reckon, 3 or 4 years ago or a few years ago, I was sitting there saying a lack of key forwards and, quality. Yeah. But this young group coming through quality, now we have a lack of key defenders.
Yep.
Now, Pearce and those guys from,
he's a bit older,
from Fremantle, but a little bit older, but I stood next to him on the weekend as well. But he's 204 himself.
Yeah, well, you need a 200-centimetre key defender to play on all these young gun forwards.
Darcy Moore's 200.
Yep.
So he's
we got
one.
Sam Darcy coming
That's
through.
Right.
He's 208.
I know, yeah. So plenty going. Hey, just quickly now, at Collingwood, the big storyline looming. Damo, you can probably touch on this first, but the Brodie Grundy situation, and then I want to ask the boys, if you're Collingwood, do you want to keep Brodie Grundy? Yep. Or are you happy to let him go?
Massive decision to make. Injury-wise, at least a week, by all reports, maybe 2. And again, it could be longer, it could be shorter when he comes back. And he'll come straight back in, I would imagine. Darcy Cameron, in the meantime, has helped this club get on a 7-win winning streak. He's been recontracted in that same time frame for a further 3 seasons. Mason Cox has also re-emerged as a key player. It's a all-rich tapestry for Collingwood now in this part of the ground. Brodie Grundy will still play, as far as I'm concerned, but then there's a separate conversation post-season about does he stay there beyond 2022? And that's a real conversation that's starting to be had now and will become potentially pointy-ended as Collingwood attempts to clear some salary cap space to bring in the likes of a Tim Taranto.
It's a keep from me, but in terms of the salary cap, so if they offload him, they're going to have to pay a portion, aren't they? They're still paying Adam Treloar for another year.
Still paying Adam Treloar good money.
But this is where I disagree with this argument that everyone's going with, that if they have to pay some of Brodie Grundy's salary, that's a bad thing. Because I'm just looking, right, let's say he's on $1 million. Even if they paid $300,000, that means they've got $700,000 that they didn't have that they can then pay for Tim Taranto. So let's say it's still $1 million. Would you rather have Tim Taranto in your team that's maybe more of a need base because they've got Darcy Cameron? Or would you rather keep Brodie Grundy, who's not necessarily a need, with Darcy Cameron? So I still look at it and go, I'd accept paying Brodie Grundy, but you're getting in a player to your club, a high-quality player like a Tim Taranto whose name's been thrown around, for the same price. Yeah, essentially.
If Darcy Cameron goes down, though, your ruck stocks are very, very thin then.
Well, that's a different question about whether they need to keep Brodie Grundy.
But that's probably why. If he's your depth player, That's a pretty
That's
handy
right.
problem to have. He's obviously a lot better, I still think, of a player than Cameron. Cameron's elevated himself, but comparing the pair, you'd have Brodie Grundy over Cameron every day of the week.
Cameron's playing tall. Grundy, for the last few years, hasn't played tall. I've wrote about this a few weeks. As long as he gets back to his marking best, don't worry about Cameron. He replaces Cox.
Correct.
So now if Cox gets an injury or if he can't maintain his form, then Grundy becomes integral still in that team.
But if you're off Brodie Grundy and then you've got Cameron who gets injured and then Mason Cox is your number one banana in the ruck.
Trouble.
That's the question. You keep Brodie Grundy as the second banana at $1 million, or you offload him, keep Mason Cox as your backup at $200,000, and you've got Tim Taranto coming into your footy club.
Brodie's not going to be your second banana if he gets somewhere back to his best. That's simple.
That's the big question mark. Good one. Hey, next question. Seeing we are talking about the Pies, we've got to touch on Daisy. You've told me this. I haven't checked it, but Scott Pendlebury's
350 games
this week.
Unbelievable.
Which is unbelievable. So I want to ask the question, the Daisy Duck Dive, is he Collingwood's greatest ever player, Scott Pendlebury?
Oh, he's in the argument.
I know he's in the argument. That's
he sits along. He sits comfortably alongside Buckley and others from years gone by. That
resumes completely stack up. Obviously got the premiership over Bucks, all Australians, best and fairest. I don't think he has won as many best and fairest as Bucks.
One short.
One short because Bucks always puts him in a different spot late in the year so he can't get votes. Very, very smart from Nathan when he was the coach. But look, it's wherever he sits in the top handful of greats of that football club, it's a fantastic effort to come from the basketballing background and be able to evolve throughout his career. Not only that, but his durability, his ball use. He's a great of the modern game, whichever way you spin it.
You started the same day as him.
We did. We used to share a little flat out the back of Greg Swan's house. He used to have the little oscillating fan next to his, bit of a weirdo where he sleeps like that, had the oscillating fan next to his head that did me pill in. But we were very different
You were different and you still are.
And we still are, but no, full credit to him and it's great to see.
I think he's unique. I think that's the great thing about Scott Pendlebury. I've never seen a player like him before him. And the only one that plays in a similar vein, I think, is Bontempelli, who can make things sort of slow down around him.
Yep.
But unique. That's what makes him, I think, unbelievably good.
Yeah, good one. Hey, last question for the Daisy Duck Dive. We're just chatting about key defenders, key forwards. I want to pose this, and I think I know your view, Duck, but I'll ask it anyway. Should the Western Bulldogs now bite the bullet, with Josh Bruce most likely coming back into the side this week, talk about them getting Rory Lobb for next season, planning for the future, and even to help them in the short term right now? Is it time to pull the trigger and put Aaron Naughton back to centre-half back and build their defence that has been horrible for most of the season?
Which is what they recruited him to be.
So
he could be the best centre-half back in the competition.
So rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yes, that's correct.
Why are they going after Roy Lobb?
Maybe that's part of the reason. They need a tall forward, second ruck.
If you can find someone that can play forward the way he can, you don't move him down back. Snowy off the trams can play down back.
Snowy gets it right again.
Pretty handy, Snowy, though. Good size, lockdown, good speed.
Failed forwards go down back. Right? Failed forwards.
Yep.
Ross Glendenning wasn't a failed forward. Ross Glendenning wasn't a failed forward.
Or you start there. But you definitely don't move him from centre-half forward now.
Yeah, I don't buy that either. I think what he could do in the game in terms of the next 5 to 10 years as a centre-half forward, I wouldn't be worrying about putting him at half-back or centre-half back. I don't think Rory Lobb's the fit for that footy club either, to be honest. Go and get yourself someone who can shore up your back line.
But go and get a defender.
Who is that?
Well, I don't know.
Well, but that's it. Don't go chasing Rory Lobb. Go and chase someone who's available. Throw the kitchen sink at somebody because that's where they are losing games. That's where they're breaking down.
They can't. There's not a 6'8" centre-half back in one of the South Australian or WA leagues. I don't sit there and study the other leagues. I'm not a recruiter. I'm just saying go to those leagues and pick out a big guy that is a stopper. If a centre-half back doesn't necessarily have to be attacking. You've got your half-back flankers that can run. As long as if he can stop a Naughton or, stop a Mackay or a Curnow or any of these guys or a Cameron, that's all you want. That's what you centre-half back to be.
Do you think they should be putting him to the back line?
Yeah, I do. I think to build
just as an experiment or
no. I think to build a premiership team, you have to build it from the back, which we've seen with Melbourne. Stephen May, Jake Lever. We've seen with the great Richmond defence, they did it with Jack Rewalt and a bunch of smalls. I think you need to win a premiership with your strong defence. I would build from the back. Put Aaron Naughton, make him the best centre-half intercept defender in the competition, and you can make do with forwards. Josh Bruce is still there. You can go and get
But you
some other
don't
names.
even know whether Norton can play that
But does
role
he-
Yes,
anyway.
he was drafted,
He was drafted
top 10
as
as
that,
a centre-half.
yeah.
Does he
but
kick the
Have
ball?
you ever seen him take 10 intercept marks in
I've
a game?
seen the way he launches for the ball, Duck, and I reckon if he was able to do that in the back half,
With it coming into
it
him
coming in.
for that way,
So
yeah.
you think the way he launches the ball the way he does as a forward, you think that's good as a centre-half back, do you?
yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
tell you what, he'd want to grab it.
Or he could always make the decision to
He'd
punch
want to
it.
grab it. If he launches like that in
Yeah.
defence and then comes down
Yeah.
and the ball comes to ground and he's on the ground, you'd want him, like I said, he'd want to mask
Is
it.
he a better forward than Paddy McCartan?
Is he?
Yeah. So what's Paddy
Well,
McCartan doing as an intercept defender at centre-half back?
Oh, so all of a sudden, Paddy McCartan now is the saviour of the Sydney Swans
I
because
know,
he's taken a few intercept marks.
He's the number one in the competition for intercept marks.
Okay.
So I'm giving him as a comparison. Is Norton better
So-
than Paddy McCartan?
It's a compelling
forward,
argument
yes,
he's
he
made.
is.
I like it. I think he's got you, Duck.
As a forward, he is a better forward than Paddy McCartan.
I think he got you then.
And
Duck.
why is Paddy McCartan go back?
Because he's a
'Cause he-
failed forward
he-
duck.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's 15 all, let's go.
He's come back.
New balls. I agree that failed forwards you got to try as a defender.
Yes,
I think
correct.
you ended up
You don't-
arguing different
Yeah,
things.
well,
there.
that
I
was-
like it.
yeah, anyway,
Can you
very
put
good.
Josh Bruce to centre-half back?
That is an option as well.
Liam Jones obviously went from...
That's right.
as-
Liam.
and then probably a
Hang
similar
on,
time.
why though?
All right, yo. Oh, Duck's got that glint in his eye. We'll take a break because up next we're going to look at the round 18 action and maybe just have a look at a couple of tips from round 17. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. We always like to hold ourselves accountable to last week. So let's take a listen back to the Melbourne v Geelong game, the Thursday night clash. That was a 50-50 game. How do we tip it?
I'm like you. I do see this as the grand final preview right now, and I'm all in on the Cats for that big game, and particularly this game in this round.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Geelong as well, though. I think Geelong's at the moment playing better football than Melbourne.
Outstanding, boys.
Well done.
Duck and Daisy,
Yeah, I went.
they tipped Melbourne, did they?
Yeah, we did.
I tipped
Hey,
Melbourne,
but
but
Dave-
they
I didn't
didn't
say
care.
Geelong could win, obviously.
Two-horse race. Yeah.
Hey, Daisy,
I'm not in that sense. I
the
didn't.
Oracle did come out, and you were very, very confident on this one.
I could not be more bullish on Fremantle.
Right.
Fill up last week it was for Brisbane. Sit and steer Geelong v GWS. I would combine both of those phrases. I can't believe they're outsiders in this. This is just a genuine, sit up for the photo job for Freo.
Daisy, you've convinced me to now back Fremantle in this game.
Well done, Daisy.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank you,
St
Daisy. I got
Kilda.
that tip
How are you
right.
feeling at half time?
No, I was slightly worried.
Yeah.
I thought they were always going to go on and win the game, but I didn't think it was going to be a fill-up. But then in that third term in the last quarter, for them to win by 40 or more points was very nice.
Did the stewards find them for the photo they took on the siren?
A bit of carry on with the whip action late, but play on.
Concern for the Saints in that game was the fact they're only 8 points up with that dominance that they had through the midfield and clearances, et cetera, et
And
cetera.
how quickly they folded
Yep.
in that third quarter. Hey,
so
let's
on
go.
That, so on that game.
Yeah, St Kilda Bulldogs is Friday night. That is a big one.
Yeah. Well, the loser is done.
Yep.
Done and dusted. No chance at all. No. Well, hang on.
Technically, they
the
will.
Bulldogs-
They'll still be
Yeah,
back,
the Bulldogs
mate.
are
St
level
Kilda, yeah.
points.
St Kilda's in and the Bulldogs are out.
If they
by a
aren't
game.
beating, if one of
Bulldogs
those teams
are out
aren't
by a
beating the
game.
other,
St Kilda
that are both out.
percentage.
If one of these teams aren't beating the other, they're both out of form. Then the team that loses probably doesn't deserve to play finals. To be honest,
Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it?
well, won't Norton kick 10 full forward?
Yeah.
No Dougal Howard.
I'll probably tip the Bulldogs.
Well, if Norton goes back, St Kilda won't score.
Yeah. True.
So
Yeah, that's right.
Go the Bulldogs, probably.
I think my gut feel, Damo, and I'll get your take. Just listening to Luke Beveridge and the way the Dogs have almost. I think St Kilda. They've got more to play for this game. I'm going St Kilda. I think they get themselves up for these. The arousal levels up. They'll play their game that they bring every sort of couple of weeks, and can beat the Western Bulldogs, who have hit a real flat patch for me. The Dogs.
I'm with you, Joey. On this game, I think St Kilda will win. And those comments to which you refer from Luke Beveridge talked about the competition moving past them this year. That's his own words. And that there was a reference to the future in the remaining 6 matches of the year, which for a club that's only one game outside the 8 was pretty pertinent.
Sam Darcy could.
He
get a
could,
game this
yeah.
week.
Look, I'd imagine he would duck at some stage of the remaining 6 games, and how many they want to give him, and who it's against. Whether it's a baptism of fire against a Max King, probably, or who knows? Who knows? It might be the best way to do it.
He
I don't
could
know.
play forward. He's been playing forward as well in the VFL.
Sam, has he? I thought it was mostly
no,
back.
It's back and forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to tip Saints in that one. Don't really. Obviously, I said the Dogs wouldn't be playing finals, so I'll stick with that theory.
What about anyone with the theory, the new coach for North Melbourne? Can they upset Richmond? I don't know what the stats are, whether it's actually
It's nowhere near as pronounced as people think it is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's
So
nowhere
probably
near.
not then.
Richmond did give up a 40-point lead to the Gold Coast Suns, so they will be breathing fire.
Yeah.
There will be an emotional response that comes with the new coach and a few things being different, but then after a quarter and a half, it all falls back to system and talent, and unfortunately, they don't have either.
I think North. I think North showed a lot last week and showed that they have got a lot of talent on that list, and they all played, and the senior players stood up and played well. Goldstein, Zeeble, they all contributed, and then everyone else. LDU was unbelievable in the middle of the ground. Mackay was brilliant, 10 intercept marks or whatever he had. So they
Was
all
he
stood
playing
up.
forward or back?
Oh, well, we know why he's playing back.
Amazing what happens when you play the people in their correct positions.
Yeah.
I agree. I think North Melbourne, I had a look today, they're 24 and unders. There is a core of about 20 that have got talent that can all play. We just haven't seen, so the coach wasn't able to get the best out of them this season, and their development program hasn't allowed them to flourish enough. So I think maybe with a better development program and hopefully a new coach that can get the best out of them, there is a core there of 24 and under that all have a lot of talent that can build together. It'll take time, but can build the club forward.
Yep.
Well, we all tip Richmond, yeah.
Yep.
So Carlton Geelong's the other one. Carlton Geelong's the big one. Who are we tipping?
Well, as you and I declared at the start of the year, Joey, we thought the Geelong team was good things for the grand final. But having said all that, I'm in this game and going to be going for Carlton.
I'll stick with Geelong, but what happens if Carlton knock off Geelong Saturday night?
Well,
at the
they
MCG?
become a genuine question of a contender, and the answer becomes.
I reckon they are anyway.
They're a prelim finalist. They can absolutely play in a prelim,
Yeah, well,
which is what we say you got to get to be able
To
to
be a
their
contender.
ability to flick the switch and score heavily, and they're getting scored against, which is still a slight concern, but their ability just to go bang and put 5 on you before you blink keeps them in a lot of games. Yeah,
All right, who's with me? Who's going to be brave?
Yeah, I'm coming with you.
This will test Sam de Koning, the young key defender who's had a great year. But he's either going to play on Curnow or Mackay, so good luck to young
I
Sam
did
de Koning.
tip the Cats earlier in the week, so for anyone who wants to correct me, I've changed my mind.
Well, I know I was at the Cattery last week, but they should have won by 10 goals. So I'm going with the Cats. I think in what will be a ripping game.
The other huge one, Freo, Sydney over in Perth. Dockers seem to have found their mojo after a little bit of a slump on offence in particular the last couple of weeks with Fife playing more time forward. Can Sydney upset
And
Freo?
for what it's worth, Paddy McCartan is one of the recruits of the year for Sydney. He's been unbelievable, and the story's great. So I wasn't having a go.
No,
at him
I know
before,
you
just
weren't.
so
I know
know.
you weren't at all.
He's been great, but I think Freo in Freo,
6 of 7.
unbelievable.
Yep.
I think they'll be hard to beat.
Yep, agree.
I'm also tipping an upset, Joey. Port Adelaide to beat Melbourne.
Whoa.
Anyone with me on that?
I'm not ruling them out.
No, neither am I.
Where's that being played? That's in. Is it the Alice Springs?
Yeah.
Alice Springs,
Alice
yeah.
Springs. So the conditions are going to play a factor.
I'm going
It'll
for
probably be
Port.
low scoring, which gives Port Adelaide a chance. I'm not ruling them out, Port Adelaide.
I will tip Melbourne in that one. I'm also going to tip West Coast to beat Hawthorn this week as an upset, a big upset at the MCG.
At the MCG.
Ooh, they were good last week.
The Hawks were
The
good.
Hawks.
The Hawks were good.
Little
West
Dylan
Coast,
Moore going in the midfield.
if West Coast can produce what they did in the middle 2 quarters for longer, and I guess this is the great conundrum, but if they can deliver that and draw on that, they're getting back to being a lot better football side. Still not their best, but a lot better than what we've seen for the first 18 rounds.
And I think Essendon maybe can win again, and they'll make it 4 out of 5, and it probably should be 5 out of 5 because, what do they want, 3 out of 4 at the moment? Yep, and they lost to West Coast.
Gold Coast will beat Essendon.
Yeah,
I think
Gold
the Bombers
Coast
are
too,
playing
Joey.
very good footy. I think
Okay.
soon everyone will start to realise the Bombers will be okay.
Gold
And Ben
Coast
Rutten's
for
their
me.
man.
Gold Coast for
Gold
me
Coast
too,
for
Doug.
me.
I'll take the Bombers. Hey, this has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, exclusive on the Listener app. Don't forget you can listen to every game across round 18 this weekend on Triple M and Listener, starting with the Friday huddle at 6 o'clock with Das Howie, Nath Brown, Damo and Nick Rewalt joining the team ahead of the Western Bulldogs v St Kilda. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.